Why does God wake you up at 3 a.m.? A biblical warning you need to know. Have you ever woken up suddenly at 3 a.m. feeling strange? The room is silent, the world outside is still, yet something inside you feels unsettled. Your heart beats a little faster, as if something unseen is trying to get your attention. This is no coincidence. Throughout history, this hour has been surrounded by mystery and significance. Some cultures believe it is a time when the veil between the spiritual and physical worlds becomes thinner. But what if I told you that the Bible might hold clues about the real reason God wakes you up at 3 a.m.? Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because in our next videos we'll explore even more mysteries you won't want to miss. Many people ignore this sign and go back to sleep. But what if this awakening is a divine call? What if, at this very moment, something is happening in the spiritual realm and you need to be alert? To understand this, we need to look at one of the Bible's most mysterious patterns. If 3 a.m. were just an ordinary time, why do so many people around the world report waking up at this exact moment, feeling a presence or an inexplicable unease? The answer might be in the Bible. In Judeo-Christian tradition, the period between 3 and 4 a.m. is considered a time of deep spiritual battle. In the Gospel of Matthew, we see that Jesus was betrayed and arrested at night, possibly during this very period. Darkness has always been associated with moments of trial and temptation, but there's something even more intriguing. Many biblical texts suggest that God reveals mysteries and gives guidance during the early hours of the morning. King David himself wrote in Psalm 119, "At midnight I rise to give you thanks." This implies a connection between an unexpected awakening and a divine calling. But what exactly is God's purpose in interrupting your sleep? The answer may lie in the stories of those who receive divine messages in the dead of night. Since ancient times, God has chosen the early morning hours to speak to people. One of the most famous examples is that of young Samuel. While sleeping in the temple, he heard a voice calling his name. He woke up and ran to Eli, the priest, thinking it was him calling. But Eli realized it was something much greater. "If you hear the voice again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening,'" the priest instructed. And this was how Samuel received his first great revelation from God. Another remarkable case is that of Jacob, who had a supernatural encounter while he slept. In his dream, he saw a ladder connecting heaven and earth, with angels ascending and descending. When he woke up, he exclaimed, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Could your 3 a.m. awakening have the same meaning? What would happen if, instead of ignoring it, you sought to understand what God is trying to show you? Perhaps He is revealing something that could change your life forever. But before we learn how to decipher this sign, we need to understand what this hour truly represents in the spiritual world. Why exactly this time? What makes so many people report spiritual experiences between 3 and 4 a.m.? Some traditions suggest this is the moment when forces of good and evil are in their fiercest confrontation. The Bible gives us clues about this. In Luke 22:53, Jesus says, "This is your hour when darkness reigns." He was speaking precisely about the nighttime period when his betrayal was being planned. And it is no coincidence that, for centuries, many religions have considered this hour a time of intense spiritual activity. But here's the detail that few people notice. While it may be a time of battle, it can also be a time of revelation and victory. If God is waking you up at 3 a.m., it may be because He wants to show you something crucial. But is this message a warning, protection, or a call to action? To find out, we need to understand one of the most unsettling phenomena linked to this hour. So, have you heard about these facts before? Drop a comment and let's talk. Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. feeling a strange presence, an inexplicable chill, or even a sensation of paralysis? If so, you're not alone. Many people report experiencing intense nightmares, seeing shadows in their rooms, or feeling a heavy pressure on their chest at this exact time. But could there be a spiritual explanation for this? In the Bible, we find references indicating that the spiritual world is constantly active, both for good and for evil. In Ephesians 6:12 we read, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." What if 3 a.m. is a time when these invisible battles intensify? Many scholars point out that occult rituals and dark spiritual practices often take place during this time, as a sort of opposition to the power of early morning prayer. But here's something most people don't realize. If God allows you to wake up at this hour, it might be because He wants you to take action. But what kind of action? Before we uncover how to respond, we need to understand what this wake-up call could mean for your life. God has always used signs to warn and guide His people. What if waking up at 3 a.m. isn't just a coincidence but a divine warning? Many times, we are so consumed by our daily routines that we ignore small signs that could change our destiny. In the Bible, there are many occasions where God spoke through dreams and visions. Joseph, for example, received a crucial revelation about Egypt's future through a dream. Daniel interpreted visions that altered the course of entire kingdoms. But what if God is trying to communicate with you in the same way? Waking up in the middle of the night could be a divine call to pay attention to something you've been ignoring. It might be a warning to change direction, an answer to a question you've been asking for a long time, or even protection from something that is about to happen. But how can you be sure that this call is really from God? To understand this, we need to explore one of the greatest spiritual secrets: the power of prayer in the early hours of the morning. Let's continue. But first, I noticed you haven't hit the like button yet. If you're enjoying this content, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Imagine waking up at 3 a.m. and instead of trying to go back to sleep, you decide to do something different. You kneel down and start to pray. What could happen? In the Bible, we see that some of the greatest moments of connection with God happened during the night. Jesus frequently withdrew to pray in the early hours. In Mark 1:35 we read, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where He prayed." If the Son of God Himself chose this time to speak with the Father, could there be a reason for that? Many people who started praying when they woke up at 3 a.m. have shared how this simple act transformed their lives. Some received immediate answers, others felt an unexplainable peace, and some were even protected from dangerous situations without realizing it. But there's something even deeper to this: the importance of being spiritually vigilant. Why do so many prophets and saints in the Bible emphasize keeping watch during the night? If there's one clear pattern in Scripture, it's that God honors those who remain spiritually alert. The ancient prophets, patriarchs, and followers of Christ had the habit of keeping watch during the night. But why? Jesus Himself gave a powerful warning to His disciples when He said, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Matthew 26:41. He knew that the early morning hours were a crucial time for spiritual battles and that many of the greatest attacks happen when we are unprepared. But here's something even more intriguing. The early morning is not just a time of spiritual warfare, it's also a time of revelation. Have you ever had a dream so vivid it felt real? What if that dream was a message from above? To understand this better, we need to dive into the mysteries of dreams and visions. Something that left you with a strange feeling, a hidden message that seemed to have a deeper meaning. The Bible is full of stories about people who received divine messages through dreams. Joseph, the son of Jacob, had prophetic dreams about his future. The Pharaoh of Egypt was warned about an impending famine. Daniel deciphered deep mysteries through visions revealed by God. Now imagine that God is trying to speak to you, but the only time you are truly receptive is in the middle of the night, when everything is silent and your mind is free from the chaos of the day. What if waking up at 3 a.m. is an invitation to hear something that could change your life? But how can you tell if a dream is just your imagination or a real message? How can you interpret the signs? The answer may lie in one of the greatest spiritual mysteries, the battle between light and darkness. If there is a divine calling to wake up at 3 a.m., there is also a reason why many feel fear at that hour. The Bible makes it clear that there is a constant battle between good and evil. And this war doesn't just take place in the physical world, but in the spiritual realm as well. In Daniel 10, the prophet describes an intriguing moment. He prayed for days without receiving an answer, till an angel appeared and told him that his prayer had been heard from the very first day, but he had been delayed by dark spiritual forces. This means that while we pray or seek answers, there is resistance in the invisible world. If God is waking you up at 3 a.m., it might be because you need to take action. It could be to pray, intercede for someone, or even protect yourself from something you cannot yet see. But how can you know exactly what to do? The key lies in spiritual discernment. Many people ignore spiritual signs because they don't know how to recognize them. But what if there were ways to perceive when God is trying to communicate with you? The first step is to observe patterns. If you keep waking up at 3 a.m., it could be a sign. If this is accompanied by strange dreams, intense feelings, or even events during your day that seem connected, maybe it's time to pay attention. Another crucial factor is the feeling that comes with waking up. Do you feel peace or restlessness? Is there a comforting presence, or do you feel afraid? God never brings confusion or fear, but He may be warning you about something. And what if, instead of ignoring this call, you started responding to it? What would happen if you turned this moment into a time of prayer and revelation? To complete this journey, we need to understand what happens when you answer the divine call. The biggest question is, what if you start taking action when God wakes you up at 3 a.m.? What could change in your life? The answer may lie in those who have already decided to listen. Many testimonies reveal that people who started praying when they woke up at this hour suddenly began to see miracles happen. Impossible answers appeared. Guidance was given. Dreams started to make sense. If God is waking you up, it is not by chance. It could be a warning, an opportunity, or a call to something greater. The only question left is, when He wakes you up again, will you ignore it, or will you answer the call? Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to keep receiving more amazing content like this.